Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday to everybody. It's May 19th on 2023, and I'm very happy to welcome María José Alberto to our Localization Fireside channel conversation this morning. I'm excited about this conversation. Thanks for being with me this morning, María José. I appreciate it. And I don't know, I didn't ask you this. Argentina and Toronto are in the same time zone, I'm assuming, right? They didn't get you early this morning, did I?
No. Well, first of all, thank you, Robin, for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here in your fireside chat. It's not 10 a.m. here, so we are perfect. We are just perfect.
Excellent. You just 1 hour ahead of us, which is great. So thanks again for being on the discussion this morning with me. It's exciting. You know, I was just looking at some of the analytics. This channel I started about a couple of months ago now. And we every Friday we record an interview with an interesting, such as yourself, professional in the industry, and would like to continue doing so. And the reason for that is, the concept behind the channel is a fireside chat. It's a casual chat. You don't need a PowerPoint. You don't need to stress about the conversation. And I tell the audience and the invitees to the chat is, imagine yourself sitting at a coffee shop with me, having a conversation about the industry, and let it be relaxed. We're not, nobody, it's our opinion. Nobody is being forced to adopt the opinion, but maybe sometimes we influence people in the way we think, which is hopefully to the positive, which is great. I heard a lot about you. I've worked with you in the past. You've got a very interesting career. Would you mind telling us, to get us started, tell the audience about yourself a little bit, about how did you cross the localization industry? It's a very interesting, in this industry, everybody's got a story.
Everyone has a past, yeah. Well, I started in the industry like 20 years ago. I got my degree when I was 21. I am 42. And at first, I really didn't know what to do with my career, because 20 years ago, it was like, or a bit more, it was like, it had nothing to do with what we see today as regards how things are moving, the fast they are moving, all the jobs that we see, it's a completely different world. So the expectation was at first to be an English teacher or start working in companies as a bilingual secretary or something. And then I started teaching in companies because I wanted to get some translations. I'm an English into Spanish translator. And after that, I said, okay, well, this is not my path. This is not my career. I want to be a translator. I have to start somewhere. And I had a friend. She said there was a translation company in Argentina called, at the time, Idea Factory Languages, run by Tere Bengtsson and Fiona Agnew. And this friend said, okay, they are looking for people here. Come with me and I'll introduce you. So that's how I started. And it was amazing. I got like in love with all the things that I saw. There were project managers, translators, editors, proofreaders, DTPers. It was like, oh my goodness, I was like, I was missing that part of the story. So I stayed there for a couple of years. I learned a lot. And then I said, okay, I wanted to run my own business. So I left and I continued working. And many years after that, I also started attending some conferences. And in one of them, I got in touch with some other Argentinian entrepreneurs. AASL, the Argentine Association of Linguistic Services, started to get going, and I am one of the founders of the Argentine Association, which is an association of translation companies. There wasn't an association like that in Argentina at that time. So apart from running my business and having employees and all, that you know about a business, I also do things that have to do with something else and something that goes, and I love that because that's volunteer. That's you are involved in things that you don't know sometimes the impact that's going to have in the rest of the world, or in the rest of the companies. For example, in Argentina, when we started working as an association, all the things that we managed to do together, that was amazing. It was amazing how it changed the industry, the local industry. So that's one of the things that I do. And I also participate in Women in Localization, again, promoting and the women in the industry. So I'm a passionate of the industry. I really like it. I can tell you many things, but I think that the most, the basis of all this is that I'm passionate of what I do. I really love it. And that's why I'm here.
And I know you and I worked together on creating a partnership agreement between the Canadian Language Industry Association and AASL. And I really enjoyed our interaction, and that's how I come to know you at the time through the partnership. I've heard about you, but that was my first interaction with you during that partnership that we created between the AASL and the CLIA now, Canadian Language Industry Association. Canada, which it's having its first conference, physical face-to-face conference in Montreal on May 24th and 25th.
Congratulations on that. Congratulations on that. The effort is tremendous.
I know. It's after COVID, 2 years in COVID, we did not do face-to-face meetings, face-to-face conferences. This is the first one we're doing a face-to-face plus a bit of a hybrid conference that's taken place. It's going to be an exciting one. We've got lots of speakers coming in 1 day, 2 days actually, and we have a gala the night before. Hopefully everybody gets to see each other, and after a long time not seeing each other, and enjoy the festivities. Also, we're celebrating our 20th year anniversary for the association as well. So
wow.
So take me a little bit about, talk a little bit about, I know you liked the industry when you first took on your job, and it's sort of like what happened to me because, I'm not sure if you've heard my story because it's also coincidental that I got into the industry 20 years ago to today. I was coming back from a business trip. I was sitting on a plane. The individual was sitting beside me, happened to be an old friend of mine, but he runs a translation company at the time. And it was based in Moncton, New Brunswick. And a 2-hour flight later, he convinced me that I should join him. And I'm going on two emotions here. He's a friend, and yeah, sure, I'll try something new. And in an industry I did not know much about, nevertheless, that I didn't know existed, to be honest with you. The fact that at the time I spoke 2-3 languages, it didn't mean that I'm a translator. I thought, that's something that you do. You want something translated, either you speak the language or you take it to somebody who speaks the language. I didn't know there was a formalized industry around this. And I fell in love with it. I mean, I'm a technologist by background, but when I got into the language industry, I saw the impact we're making on people's lives. And you're right, you bring up a very good point on AASL and how it changed a few things for you when you guys started working together. The impact of language communication on every individual on the planet. It is tremendous. It doesn't matter what demographic pockets that we try to address in our communication. It doesn't matter who we're trying to talk to, be it commercially or be it from a communication perspective, health and safety, political, whatever the communication that you communicate, that ubiquitous format that goes across all the demographics, that now everybody understands the messages that you're trying to send to. Yeah. It's tremendously impactful, positively impactful on everybody. And you feel like everybody now is getting engaged, and everybody now is on the same wavelength in terms we're disseminating the information equally to everybody. Now, there's a lot of work to be done. Obviously, we're creating more content. Content is piling up.
Yeah, of course. After the pandemics, right? After the pandemics, that was a boom. But imagine that in Argentina is a country in which industry evolved a lot. I mean, when I started working and when I got my degree, there was no industry as such. And nowadays, we have many companies, translation companies, that work in a very professional way. It's a mature market here. And it took us quite some time and quite some work to show that to the government, for example, because they didn't know what we did. They said, okay, you speak English or you speak languages. What do you do? And when we sat at their table, I remember those conversations. It was like explaining them, okay, when you turn on your phone and you select the language, there is a company behind that working on localization. So say, oh my God, really? So people started understanding what was it about. And it took a lot of teaching. And I mean, people in government were like, oh, really? Oh, so they start like understanding the impact, as you said before, we have in all industries, not only in ours, because we are across industry.
That's why like associations such as the AASL and the Canadian Language Industry Associations, those associations and many other associations around the world, you know, I had on this channel, Carrie Fisher, which is the president of Women in Localization. I had Charles Campbell, which is with the new Association for Latin America. He's doing a great job there. We need more of those associations, because not just to connect our industry players together. That's one reason. The second thing is to educate and to influence the policies, which is very, very important. There's two levels of involvement I see for all of our associations, locally and globally, is to influence the policy to allow for more and more communication, and to educate the decision makers at a policy level what is needed and how can it get done, to make sure that we're doing things adequately. Like, there is no reason why a health and safety guideline in a construction environment in country, whatever that country is, doesn't matter, to be only in one language. We all know that the world is interconnected, and people are not necessarily just speak one language and understand it correctly. Like, people say, oh, I speak English or I speak Spanish. Yeah, you know, and I just came back from Mexico. I'm saying, yeah, I speak Spanish. Well, I can order a beer. That's it.
All right. But I think there is another thing very important here, which is that we show or we lead businesses. And as such, we need to show them, of course, policymakers, how these changes are taking place in labor, for example. I mean, we don't work. I mean, sometimes it's like if laws were behind the industry. We have a global workforce today. It's not just that we work from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. It's a completely different world. So it's our role. I mean, the people who have a voice in the industry and who work towards these goals, we need to show policymakers how this has evolved and how we need to have other regulations, updated regulations that match our markets and that match a global ecosystem. I think that's a very important thing that needs to happen sometimes, maybe in other countries, not particularly in Argentina, but they are evolving more than in others. But we are like, as regards regulations, we are behind, and the industry moves at a speed that it's like impossible sometimes to make them understand that they need to change.
Tell me a little bit your perspective on the Argentinian translation or localization market. And I'll tell you, from my perspective, at least, I see two markets in Argentina. I see a local market and I see an export and import market. Am I correct there, or is there a different view of this? So let's say, take an example. I know ILS is your company. You founded the company, and it's great to talk a little bit about ILS on this channel and promote it a little bit for you.
Thank you.
So ILS is a translation company. I'm assuming you founded. You're running. You have local staff. You have a global staff, and around the globe, as you mentioned earlier, we all work remotely. So I'm assuming your business is locally and from outside Argentina, correct?
Yeah. The thing is that how is the market in Argentina? Okay, yes, most of the companies export services. Many of the translation companies in Argentina work with multilingual vendors. I don't know if all of them, but most of us, we do that. And we have this combination of direct clients and multilingual vendors. This is the typical business model that you will find here. So yes, and most of the companies do that. As to how this is changing. Well, it's sometimes quite complicated for local companies to have in-house employees and to deal with local issues that we have here as regards regulations and taxes and stuff. And this dollar that you have, different kind of dollars in Argentina. This is something really interesting of our country. You have, so you have the official one, the blue one, the tourist, and the, I don't know, the soya dollar. I don't know. It's amazing. So imagine that it's complex in terms of visibility, in terms of being able to project and to make decisions in the long term. Mm-hmm. Actually, there is quite a difference when you talk about short-term, middle-term, long-term in Argentina is something totally different probably from what you think short-term is. Short-term might be a week. And nowadays, this year, we are in an elections year, so imagine everything is quite crazy here. But having said that, our companies work in this global ecosystem. So we have the chance to work with people all over the world, with clients and with linguists and with project managers, and that's wonderful. So that's why I said regulations need to move on and it need to change, because it's not only the translation industry, it's all that has to do with knowledge-based services, actually, almost in the same way. So needs that many things need to be adjusted. But you were saying, you asked me about the market in Argentina. Well, we have great universities. We have, that translators, we do a 4 or 5 year career, university career. It's not something that we study a language. I mean, we go through in-depth courses dedicated, and we see linguistics and phonetics and many things, and translation, of course, for many years. So we have very good professionals, and sometimes what happens is that there's some, even if this has improved with years, there is some disconnection between academia and the global market in which we move and we work. So it's our job in translation companies to teach them what's that about, because they can be wonderful translators, but they need to develop many agile and many soft skills today. Soft skills today are essential for
the industry, really. I mean, academia and industry need to work together to evolve.
Of course, and government. So it's the three things, sure.
Because if you think about a translator graduated in the 80s, it's completely different from the translator graduated now, A. And B, the needs for the industries, not just the localization industry, all industries have changed. That what was required back then, it is completely different now, like in terms of content creation. I mean, look at the content in the 80s, creating content in the 80s versus creating content now. I mean, you've got everybody's creating content. I remember my conversation with one customer, and I'm asking the question, so how many content creator you have in your organization? He said about 20,000. And he was referring to every employee in that organization. So everybody who writes something, who creates something, that could be a subject to be translated. So we take content from being this much, 3 decades ago, to being like the size of the Empire State Building in New York today. Because, and then it goes back to the conversation that the industry is struggling with now, or not struggling with, trying to wrap their heads around it, is, you've got content growing exponentially. You've got universities not producing translators at the rate of content increase. So in order for us to deal with the content that's being created in a translated fashion, we need to we need to educate a lot more translators to be graduated. So the delta, now you're left with a gap, and that gap, either we do it, or the answer is don't do it, and which is not right, or do it, but use technology to get it done. And that's where, companies are faced with a major decision in localization or outside localization. Because the localization industry is a service industry. We serve other customers. We serve other needs for other industries. And those industries are saying, I need time to market. I need it quickly. I need it to get out to the market. And yes, I do need a good quality and I need a good price, etc. So all the dynamics needs to be in place for commercial and economical transactions. So for us as an industry, struggling with the idea of, oh, should we implement machine translation? Should we not implement voice anymore? You know, whether evolve.
Technology is the same as translation is goes across all industries. And today we need to face that and embrace that. I mean, it's like that. I remember when I started with machine translation, it was the year 2008, more or less. We started working with a company that was starting to implement machine translation. It was awful. It was like you had to do it all over again. I remember as a translator, I did it. I was this.
Don't tell me you used Logos. Did you use Logos?
I used things that no longer exist. I used, for example, I used Ambassador. I used Logoport.
Ladies and gentlemen,
down
memory lane for everybody.
No, yeah, this is Back to the Future. It was Logoport. I remember they said, "Where's the content? Where's everything going?" And it was amazing. Then of course Trados appeared and MemoQ and all the fancy tools that we have today. But we had a great. I mean, it was like a difficult part of. But the good thing of that era, and I'm calling it an era because we solved things. We put our hands there and we tried to solve things, and that changed a lot as well. And when we talk about soft skills and hard skills in people, you see now that sometimes it's hard for the new generations to solve things because they are used to touching one button and having things done. But we knew the things behind the scenes. We knew how to touch things and try to repair that, and we got involved, and then we got the result, or maybe we didn't, but we gave it a lot of a try. And it was quite difficult, and that evolved, and it was part of technological evolution, of course, but it went in parallel with the translation industry.
You know, that creative thinking that you talked about, that it's now becomes more of an HR issue, right? So resources, so hiring the right individuals to do the right stuff, to do the right job. It's a dilemma that everybody is facing across the globe in any industry, not just the localization industry, but in our localization industry, because it's I call it the gray matter kind of an industry, because we don't make widgets. It's not a defined way of creating things. So we don't create tables. We don't make chairs. You know, you've got a weight, you've got dimensions, you've got colors. In our translation or localization industry, the definitions of what's good in terms of output, it's very elusive. Depends on the individual that reads it, depends on the individual that consumes the content. They can give you various ways of critiquing that said content. And to the translator, to us and the industry, it could be saying, it looks good. It's a great translation, but to somebody else and say, I don't like it. I'm sorry.
Well, but because there is something new as well that in the past, that evolved as well. 20 years ago, you were a medical translator, you were an IT translator, you were a legal translator. And then because of the kind of companies that start to appear, like, I know, the big ones, Silicon Valley companies, just not to mention any in particular. It's like everything is, you have content that has all the fields in one same piece of article, let's say. You may find something that is, imagine these kind of marketplaces, okay? So you may have there some legal stuff, terms and conditions, and IT content, and you need to handle everything. But the most important thing that evolved is to consider the client's voice. And that is really hard to train, because you can be a great legal translator, but to understand and to develop and to go deeper into the client's voice and to understand what they want. And because what you said, it could be a perfectly correct translation, but it's not the voice of the client. And client-centric, I mean, you've heard that phrase, I think, I don't know how many times already, but it's like that. We work, and the way we have to work is client-centric. We cannot avoid that. It totally the opposite. We need to pay a lot of attention to what and how our client wants to talk to its audience.
So, which brings me to another one, which I have not had a chance, which I'm going to try to do a few more episodes on the topic of customer acquisition, customer retention, and customer expansion, if you will, expanding the business with a particular customer. How do you do that in your business? I know you run a ILS, so customer retention for you, what does it mean, and how do you work with that on your side?
I think that one of the most important things is to be there for our clients. That when they pick up the phone, I'm on the other side. And we don't have ILS is not a huge company. We are 15 people, but all along these years, I think that one of the most important things was that, I mean, there is a very tailored attention to our clients. It's not that the project comes in and today you have a project manager and tomorrow that project is going to be with another project manager. We really track the information and the same person manages that account all the way. So I think that that's a very important thing, or at least it works a lot for me. I mean, to be there and to be available for our clients. Again, quality matters, of course. And I've heard sometimes that quality doesn't matter, or that it's like overrated. I say, what's that? I've heard that once, and I said, well, it's not my point of view. I think that quality is everything. That's why we not only language quality. I'm talking about the quality when you certify an ISO certification. I mean, you're saying we want to be good. It's the quality of the service that we provide. You are saying we provide a service. So we want to be good at that. It's not just having, running the spell checker in a document. Is how you communicate with your client, is how you accompany your client with the doubts or whatever it may happen, or if there is something to have a root cause analysis, we go deeper into that. I mean, it's the whole service. And that's where we work strongly.
And you seem to have repeated customers. Customers comes back because they like this.
Repeated. I have many of the clients that I would say, are the ones that I started working with like 15 years ago. So I still work with them. And that I think has to do with what I'm telling you. We are there and we try not just to give a good service. We always try to see also how we can help our clients, or if there is something that we can offer beyond or see beyond their requests. But it's quality.
That's right.
And it's working responsibly. And sometimes you have to say no. And I think that that's okay as well. And sometimes that's the best thing. For example, there's something that I always say when somebody new comes in, project managers to our ILS, I say, if we cannot do it, we say no. It's not that we do everything. We don't do everything. What we do good. That's the thing.
But that's, fundamental for any business, right? I mean, and, in taking on more than you can chew kind of thing, that's what they say in English.
Totally.
To just take it on and not being able to do a good job at it. This is it goes against some business practices, but however, there are some companies out there, and I know you mentioned you're not a huge company, but guess what? There is 18,000 some odd companies in this industry that they fit in your category. You know how the industry is formulated, right? So 80% of the industry sits at the top 10, and the rest of the industry, it's the small to medium enterprise. And you're an example where you as an entrepreneur, you saw an opportunity to create a business in this industry, and you went out and you created it. Our industry actually, one of the main good criteria about our industry is the low barrier to entry when it comes to putting a business together in the localization industry. So, on the most basic stuff, and if I was a translator, all I need is a laptop. and I can start doing some translation work, and then I can call a few friends, and all of a sudden we have a cooperative. On the a little bit higher, you need a couple of software, and off you go, a website, and off you go. You get a translation company going. Now, there is the element of trust in our industry, and a trust internally to our industry. You got to trust your translator, you got to trust your project manager. Everybody needs to develop those trust fabric, I would call it. And plus, the biggest trust factor is with our customers as an industry, right? Yeah. So when the industry, and you mentioned like you have some customers that have been with you for 20 years, and I would assume the biggest thing is they trust you. They trust you can deliver. They trust you got to be there. They trust that you are to deliver what you say you are going to deliver. And trust is absolutely, there's this saying I invented years ago, we're as good as the last job we did for anybody. So if you do a good job, they're going to come back for the next job. If you do a bad job, it's going to take a long time for them to recover from that and lose the trust. And then you have to regain the trust. It's a business to be in.
Yeah. And it's, I think that's one of the most, or the things that I like the most. I mean, because even if sometimes you perceive translation as something like you don't work with people, you work with lots of people all over the world, and you have to take care of those people, either your suppliers or your clients. So, and trust, as you say, is something that you build with time. It's not something that you get overnight, and that is a lot of work. But to me, it's the reason why I do it. I really like it. I really enjoy it.
You like it. You like what you do. Now, tell me a little bit. I mean, we talked about a women in localization, and my channel. Obviously, I pride myself on empowering women to get into the business and to prosper in the industry. And I know your company, ILS, is a certified women-owned company. At least that's what I saw. And I want to put that out there because it's very important. And then at the same time, I want to understand your perspective on that. Like, what's your perspective on being a woman in this industry, woman entrepreneur, a fully successful and functional business individual in this industry, and what's your advice to women in general who are aspiring to either enter the industry or be an entrepreneur in the industry?
Well, that's a long one. As to women in localization, I've been involved in and participated voluntarily in women in localization for the last 4 or 5 years. And I'm Argentina's chapter manager. Currently, I service in that role for the last 2 years. It's being a woman in Argentina in this industry is pretty. You will see lots of women in the industry. So I don't know why, but most of there are many. If you go to universities, because for example, I give some professional introduction conversations also in the last years of the career. You will see mostly women. So it's not strange to me to see women in the industry. However, being an entrepreneur is something different. I think that you have to follow your dreams. If I have to say someone or to give a piece of advice, if you really feel it and if you really want to succeed, you have to risk it and you have to go and follow your dream. My company is, I invented it from scratch. And there is nothing that I love the most. I mean, not to see the result, is the path. Is all the things that I've done for the last 20 years that I really enjoy the most. And that is something that you build step by step. And it was not something that I inherited or something. It's something that I built from really scratch. And that's beautiful. I mean, when you get to the point of seeing all the years of work, that's great. As to women in localization, women is a wonderful space where women can participate and do networking and learn from people all over the world, because from the pandemic onwards, there are many webinars and many, the pandemic was like full of webinars, but that remained. And now we moved to some meetings again in person, let's say in person. So there's this hybrid thing, but you can teach. And the good thing is that those new translators that are coming to the end of their university career, they can join. It's free, and it's just the networking that you need when you start your career. So it's a great place to begin networking and meeting people all over the world.
So great. The topic that we did not really dive into it in detail, and I'd like to get your opinion on, is the latest technology and the impact that this is having on your business. And I appreciate your opinion on what do you think of it from an industry perspective. And specifically, I'm talking about ChatGPT or generative AI or the entire machine translation gamut, if you will. Everybody's got a machine translation now out there. So what do you think of all this? And what's the impact to your business? And what do you see the impact is on the industry?
Well, technology again. We need to cope with content. Content is, as you said before, is increasing second by second. So we need to do something with that. And technology helps, as it helped machine translation. I think that it's not, we don't have to fear of that. We need to, because I was, for example, at the Gala conference in Dublin, and there was a whole chat on this, and it was like devil. GPT was yes. And I remember those years when machine translation was the same.
Same idea.
So, same thing. So I said, okay, let's not fear. We are not going to die. This is just technology advancement, and we need to get used to it. Again, we need to embrace things, but we need to be careful because things can get dangerous if we don't use this in a reasonable way and being cautious. I think that technology is awesome, but we need to set some boundaries. There is a lot of data privacy to consider. There is a lot of things that our clients, and that compliance today matters. Our clients ask us for compliance agreement, and we need to be cautious, I think. But we need to embrace it. We just cannot use it. I think that, for example, GPT is restricted for certain things, right? If you ask like things that you shouldn't, it's not going to give you information and how to plant a bomb or something like that. I think it doesn't work like that. But you have to be careful in terms of, I think that data privacy is a thing to consider. But again, as a concept, I embrace technology. And we need to understand that it goes hand in hand with translation and with the localization industry.
Yep.
We just need to see what happens, and we just I don't think we can talk today about the extent or how it's affecting at a great scale because we are like cautious. But I think it will evolve. I think it will be another tool that will be able to build something new. Because again, as professions evolved, and now we have different roles in the translation industry. We're not just translators. We have many other jobs and roles. This is the same, and we need to adapt.
That's right.
Otherwise, what happened to dinosaurs? They didn't adapt, and they became extinct. So this is evolution. It's like that. That's my opinion.
So, and I'm glad you're in the camp of saying adopting the technology and adapting our ways of working with technology so we can evolve together. You bring up a very good point on security, data privacy, ethical use of machine translations. It all has to fit within the ISO certification and all the certifications that our companies have. You cannot go outside of that because the customer will not end up getting what they're supposed to be getting. And I think there are a couple of standards being developed on that one too. The one thing on my mind, and that's my personal opinion, people can feel free to disagree with me, on machine translation, with all the adaptability and all the embracement that we need to do, for the new tech and take on the new tech. It's not going to take us away. I agree with you. I wrote a blog on this one, a couple of years ago. I called it, we are going to be living in a coexistence of an environment where you have a human and machine working together to deliver something for the next foreseeable future. We're not going to be able to replace the human, because the human needs to train, police, if you will, make sure that the machine is producing what exactly needs to be produced. The one thing that really worries me is that a preservation of languages in general. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, by simplifying languages, and I think there are some aspect to that, it's not producing incorrect translation. It is producing quality translation in some cases. But I feel like the way we're communicating, and that's the generational, I guess, evolution, where you've got, like you mentioned earlier, people like pressing buttons and, texting each other in 3-letter words that I don't understand now. So I'm assuming, the world has thousands of languages, and I'm assuming we're going to get to a point where some of these languages are eroding and probably disappearing. And that's happening now. I would assume that the quality of the languages, if we don't insist on the MT and the Chat GPT to produce higher quality languages, it's gotta go down. If we don't do it right. So there is a lot of a stake here for us as an industry to embrace the technology and shape the technology for the preservation of languages and for the preservation of correct communication down the road.
That's why I totally agree, and I think that we don't need to fear technology and the future. We are here to shape it. So if we have that in mind, I think that that's the way to go. I mean, it's not that the machines will rule. The important thing is that human beings are conscious enough to shape the future in a way that is good for all of us. And I think that technology is really, really important, but and I mentioned this in Gala when I was it was like running for candidacy in the board last year. To me, human training is as important as technology. I mean, people need to get trained. You can have the best technology, but if you don't have people who know how to handle the technology in the right way, what do you do with technology? I mean, so this has to evolve and to grow in the same way.
That's right. And I would just, we're coming up to time here. I just want to make sure I give you the last chance to say a few words. Okay. Thank you for being with me. Thanks for your time today. I'm honored that you joined me on the conversation this morning. And absolutely pleasure to have you on the channel. And I welcome you back anytime. Hopefully next time we'll get you back to make a major announcement and about your continuous success. And really proud of this conversation that we had this morning. And any final thoughts on your side?
First of all, thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for sharing with me your time as well this morning. To me, it's really important. I know we met in different presidents panels and stuff, and I really enjoyed that. But the most important thing is that I would say is that we are using our voices right. I mean, this space is for people not just to know us, but to know about the industry, what we do, where we want to go, how serious our industry is, and how professionals we need to be when we talk about technology and what translation and localization mean in our world today. So thank you for this, for giving me this space to say it. And one of the most important things that you mentioned before is trust. We have to build trust with our suppliers, with our whole ecosystem. And it's a human service what we do. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you again, María José Alberto, for joining me this morning. And I want to thank the audience for taking the time, watching the video, subscribing to the channel, and being part of my podcast channel. I just want to remind everybody as well that this is not supported by my employer. I mean, I got a few questions. This is a personal initiative. I do it on my own time. We record the videos on Friday. I edit the videos during the weekend, and I publish them early the following week. So it is a personal initiative. It is not funded by anybody. My time and my effort. So I am, as well, like the rest of the interviewees that I brought to this channel over the time here, passionate about the industry, and I thought to do something for the industry. So I launched this initiative. So thanks again, everybody. I appreciate your time this morning, and look forward to catching up with María José next time, and look forward to any comments that you might have. So keep us engaged, keep the dialogue going for us together in this space, Localization Fireside Chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.